So a really neat feature that I've been working on for the Crazyflie has been developing some of the USB flashing process. Normally, to flash one of the Crazyflies through a USB cable, it's required to be put into DFU mode, which stands for Device Firmware Update. Now, the process of putting a Crazyflie into DFU mode is kind of arduous, mainly because it's meant more of a last resort backup for if you break some sort of software. But it's the only way to program it over USB, so I've been working on making it a little more streamlined in order to be able to run it just off of one command to flash it completely. So normally what you have to do is you have to hold down the power button here with the battery removed and plug it into your computer. And then you keep holding the power button until this LED starts flashing fast. Once that happens, then it's in DFU mode and you can execute your command to update it. So that's a long process. I have been able to modify some of the firmware in order to detect if we need to essentially boot into the bootloader whenever we start. So let's say we want to update our firmware, we can set a specific flag to say, okay, on the next restart, we need to go to the firmware, or excuse me, we need to go to the bootloader rather than the firmware. And on startup, we check if that flag is set here, and if it is, then we jump to the bootloader via this little assembly block. And once that's done, we can then use the command line in order to upload the file and then reboot. So an example of that would be, say we already built our software, then we can go ahead and run just make flash DFU, and when I execute that, it'll put the drone into DFU mode, which you can notice by just the one LED lit solid. And then on my terminal here, I'm seeing a download message, so this shows me the progress of the flashing, and once this is at 100%, it will boot into the firmware. And there we go. So that is a quick little update that I've been working on in order to streamline the process of flashing the Crazyflie through just USB.